Today we're looking forward to gaining some practical insight on Holstein Genomics from a panel of dairy industry leaders who work with genomics each and every day. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our panelists, and our format will be I'll introduce each panelist, and then they're going to go individually, give a little presentation, and then we'll have a good opportunity for Q&A with our expert panelists. Dr. Michael Bishop, to my immediate right, is Senior Market Development Specialist for Illumina. Previously, he was Business Development and Chief Technology Officer for Conklin Company, Inc. Dr. Bishop began his career as a research geneticist for the USDA's Agriculture Research Service and later worked for American Breeders Service, now ABS Global, as manager of DNA testing and then as director of research. He implemented a DNA market-based selection system for dairy and beef bulls, founded a genetic diagnostic company, GenMark, and co-founded Infogen, a commercial nuclear transfer, transgenic, and cellular remodeling company where he became CEO. Seated next to Dr. Bishop is Chuck Ripp. Chuck grew up on Ripp's Valley Dairy, LLC in Dane, Wisconsin, and in 2004 became owner and partner with his brothers Gary and Troy Ripp at Ripp's Dairy Valley. The operation has gone through 3 expansions and currently have a herd of 1,000 cows and 900 heifers. Their rolling herd average is 31,100 pounds of milk with a 3.8% fat and 3% protein, and with somatic cell count average of 170,000. Their focus on the dairy is cow comfort and high quality feed. They place emphasis on production and durability. The last 2 years, the dairy has started breeding mostly with high genomic bulls that are plus in udders and feet and legs. Chuck has farmed his whole life and started full-time right out of high school. He is a member of the Holstein Association, the PDPW, DBA, Farm Bureau, and a delegate for AgSource CRI. He serves on the board of Yahara Pride Farms. Seated next to Lindsey here, to my immediate left, Dr. Dan Weigel grew up in Iowa on the family farms, Weigel Holsteins, and graduated from Iowa State University with a degree in dairy science. He received both his MS and PhD from Virginia Tech, with his dissertation focusing on the prediction of genetic merit for lifetime profitability in Holsteins. Before joining the R&D group for Zoetis, formerly Pfizer Animal Health, in 1995, Dr. Weigel served as a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Guelph, working on the implementation of multiple across-country evaluations, MACE, for confirmation traits of Holstein sires. Dr. Weigel's current role with Zoetis is in outcomes research, and he remains active as a breeder of registered Holsteins. On my far left is Dr. Nate Zwald, who has been with Alta for 14 years and is currently the USA General Manager. Nate has used his practical experience through his continued involvement in Bomaz Farms, an 800-cow operation in northwest Wisconsin, to genetically impact the health and productivity of cows in competitive commercial environments. Nate is responsible for the development of Alta's Concept Plus evaluation and was instrumental in the development of the Alta Advantage program in the United States, and more recently, the expansion of the program into global markets. At this point, I'm going to turn the program over to Dr. Bishop, who will give his presentation. Dr. Bishop, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, John. I'm truly honored to be here today. How many Buckeyes do I have in the crowd? Don't be afraid. How many from Alabama? See, they were afraid to show up. Oh, no, there's one. Okay. Go Bucks. Just kidding. I'm very happy to be here today, and I have to say that You truly, as Holstein breeders, are the envy of the world, at least the bovine world. As I crisscross this great globe of ours and meet people of all different nationalities, and we talk about dairy cattle business and the beef cattle business, it's the Holstein breed that basically leads the way. So you should give yourselves a round of applause and a pat on the back, because you have embraced technology in so many ways to advance your breed. And I represent a company today known as Illumina. And I can see why other speakers are having problems, John. You can't see too well. But let's just a quick journey here. I only got 10 minutes. But let's think about who we are, and think about your grandchildren and your children and what they're going to remember from the decisions we make today. Because I think that the accountability to them is really what we're all about, and some of the selection decisions we're making. Sorry, I hit it too fast. Where am I, John? There we go. Illumina is a global organization that is got 7 different central locations around the globe, and our technology is basically the backbone of the DNA chips that you are using. That Zoetis was instrumental in early days of developing the technology, helping us develop that technology and deliver it to the industry in the form of the 50K. And basically, today, we are a DNA sequencing and microarray company, and over 90% of the DNA sequence, both human and animal, is done in a next-generation system of sequencing, and it's on our platforms. Principally, the workflow that our consumable products are manufactured by us for the various instruments that we sell. And we most recently have introduced cloud-based analysis systems. And in the future, I believe you'll find that the cloud will become a place where you will store information, store data, store analysis capabilities in a very end-to-end solution mechanism, and various organizations will link to it. Our platforms, this slide kind of gives you a schematic of the platforms we have. Our various sequencing platforms brings us today in a very methodical, systematic way to where we can sequence a genome of over 3 billion DNA base pairs for less than $1,000 in the human field today. So it's bringing and moving closer and closer the ability to do genomic analysis on an individual basis and realize the potential of personalized medicine, not only for humans, but in the future, as I visit with veterinary diagnostic companies and have some opportunities to work with companies around the globe, we will use DNA sequencing and the capabilities in livestock for diagnostics, various diseases, as well as for treatment programs. We also have, on the far right of this screen, is the platforms we use for DNA microarray analyses. How many of you heard of microarrays? Well, that is the chip that you probably hear about. We don't have time today to go into the methodology of the chip and the technology on it, but it was revolutionary to this industry. Now, who is Illumina? Illumina is based in San Diego. It was basically brought out in an IPO several years ago. It has, as of today, I just checked a little while ago how the stock was doing. We're just up in the high 20s, low $30 billion valuation. Last year we did $1.9 billion worth of sales, and we're scheduled to go well over $2 billion this year in both instruments, consumables, and diagnostic technologies. So we have been a pioneer in next generation sequencing, And we have a large patent portfolio. And most recently, I think a couple of days ago, MIT named us the #3 smartest biotechnology company in the world. At a glance, I believe this slide, we are 3,500 more or less employees who will grow to 6,000 employees with 2 major facilities, one located not only in San Diego, but in the UK to better serve the European and the Asian markets. We are expanding at a rapid pace, and we are focused on and all the different technologies and platforms for these markets. And our markets basically are driven by the cancer and human medicine market, but all those things feed to agrigenomics. And you get to take advantage of that with your breeding programs, the technology that comes about and gets developed for human medical research. So I think it's pretty exciting that we have a small team of people at Illumina that are principally involved with the application of agrigenomics and specifically in the cattle world to genetic selection. We're a small team of about 6 people inside of the company, and agrigenomics represents about $300 million worth of sales. So what drives us is basically we want to unlock the power of the genome and help with the process of delivering a higher quality food product to the industry, to all people who eat food. We are principally driven towards genomic selection currently, but our markets include veterinary diagnostics as well as several other areas that we're starting to get into. And some of you may have heard of the bovine SNP 50, the 50K that was first marketed by Zoetis as the backbone of some of the presentations you've heard today, and is the backbone used in the genetic selection as a tool today. That was a collaborative effort of many, many scientists and combined with the technology of Illumina. And that technology is applied today for various trait unraveling. Here's just a quick example of fertility trait that was unraveled in the dairy industry most recently. And the Manhattan plots and that you heard about this morning. But this technology has that capability to unravel some of those traits that we talk about, that we need to talk about, and we're probably going to be faced with understanding better in the future. A lot of these things, most recently, is the 1,000-Bull Genome Project. I don't know how many of you have heard of it, but principally we are gathering a database across the globe of about 1,000. It's going to be closer to 2,000 bulls that are fully sequenced as a database that we'll be able to use as a pivot point for comparison as we unravel further the genome of beef or dairy cattle and beef cattle. Now, some of the things that we are focused on today is the power of epigenetics, the power of the microbiome, and also nutrigenomics, how we're influencing by the genetics of the animal, how that's influenced by the environment of the animal, and the management techniques that it's exposed to. To me, it's kind of amazing how fast we are ramping up in technology. This picture that I've got up on the slides right now is a pair of cows known as Cookies and Cream. Cookies and Cream were made by Infogen over 17 years ago. And Cookies and Creams are clones. And the calves laying in front of them are them. They are clones of them. In other words, they are them, and they carried them. So they actually gestated themselves. So 17 years ago, we made those clones. We were able to, behind the S1 casein promoter, stick various genes where we could turn a dairy cow into a biofactory and produce such products as human fibrinogen and other things. So These are all things that happened not so long ago that I was involved with over 17 years ago, and here we are today. At a very fast pace, we're going to be able to do a lot of things such as genome editing and other things. We'll be able to identify the very, very important genetics that are in the Holstein, the Jersey, whatever breed, the Angus breed, and if we don't like something, we'll go in and switch it. We'll go in and be able to take a turn on a DNA base that might change the way a gene is expressed, that might change the phenotype that is exhibited in that animal. Those things are coming. They've already been demonstrated, and they're already coming in the pipeline. So the future looks very, very interesting. You, as breeders and Holsteins, have always embraced technology, both reproductive and genomic. And with the combination of reproductive and genomic technologies, you've bent the curve on generation interval. You know that. It's controversial, and we all have to discuss it. I'm constantly reminded, as I grew up as a child in the livestock business from Ohio, that basically animal production is a combination of the art and science of animal husbandry, and a combining of knowledge and experience and everything that it takes, but it also requires common sense. So I bring you back to what will your grandchildren and great-grandchildren say about the decisions you make today. I really appreciated the discussion I heard today when the sessions I got to sit in early, John, some of the questions coming from the floor. You are to be commended. I commend you again, because you are facing decisions and discussions about things that no other cattle breed has ever gone through before, okay? You are the leaders. So because you don't have answers for those questions yet, it does not mean that they should not be asked, and they should be. So what are the important traits? What is the right way to apply this technology in cattle? You can ask the academics, you can ask researchers, me, John, whoever. We need to have that discussion. But there's no clear-cut answers because you're going where you've never been before. So I'll leave it for now, John. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bishop. Our next speaker is Mr. Chuck Ripp. Chuck, welcome.
Sorry about that. A little shorter than Mr. Bishop. Well, I was brought in here, I was called a few weeks ago by John Meyer, and he wanted to get a producer on this panel that does a lot of genomics with the heifers, that we've been pretty aggressive on our dairy with through expansion, and we partake in new technologies fairly soon at our dairy. Not everything, but this is something that interests us, and definitely me in the early ages of genomics. And I'm just going to explain to you how we go about doing genomics and what our future we hope to look like here. We average about 550 heifers a year on our dairy, and we freshen about 1,000 cows, so right at 50% bulls and heifers. All the heifers except for probably about 5% are tested. The only heifers we do not test at our farm are maybe out of herd bulls or out of dams that I particularly don't, they're not my fancier cows, or ones that I feel I'm going to cull in the near future anyway. So I figure, why spend the money on genomics on one that I feel doesn't have a future? But pretty much all of the heifers are tested. They are tested within a week of being born. And as I get 25 to 30 samples together, or when I get a rainy day where I'm able to scan them and label them and send them in, that's how I go about taking care of it. Some of the pros that I like about genomics is obviously the accuracy of the sire and the dam. I can't tell you enough how much through the years of us building our dairy from being a herd bull, everything on natural service when I was younger, to back in the early 90s when I finally convinced my father that AI was the way to go. It took us a long time to build our herd to get it back to where it is today because of too much inbreeding, going through 3 expansions on unsired or unknown animals or heifers, with genomics. We are going to know who that father is. We are going to know who that mother is. That's very important to me on the inbreeding side. So that's a very big pro. That was one that really caught my eye when genomics came out, and that's why that was one of the biggest things. It provides me better ideas for culling. Now, right now, I'm not culling any heifers other than when they become springers or at milking time heifers. We do raise them all, but in the future, I am definitely going to be looking at this as I learn genomics a little bit more and have a little more protection on it where I feel fair that the numbers are correct. At that time, I will sell some younger calves so I don't have to bring them through all the way up to older. Another good pro for it, the AI companies can reduce the number of bulls that they sample. They still have plenty of bulls to sample, but they can cut that down quite a bit. I think that's good for our industry because we don't need to be testing bulls that nobody should or wants to use. So even though they're still going to have to do it, I think that's going to help them out. And it's going to help us focus on our best genomic heifers on our dairy. What it's going to teach me is have a plan or protocol of how I'm going to breed my heifers on a dairy, and I'm going to know this when they're 3, 4, or 5 months old. And it's really going to help so when the heifer gets to the breeding yard and she's getting ready to be bred, that I already have the sire or whatever I'm going to do. I have that all in place ahead of time, and it gives me more time to not only check out net merit and TPI, it lets me check out the DPRs and all the health traits on that animal so I can correctly breed that heifer. And I think in the long run that is going to bring my heifer up and it's going to improve my production and profitability on my dairy. The cons, well, it adds time, it adds cost to the dairy. Somebody's got to go out and get that sample. Thank God for the snippet in the ear. That is so much better. I can't tell you how long it took me to get hairs and keep them separate when I went to get, it was quite a challenge for me. And then to have everything just perfect, and mail it, for me it was a pain. But when we have the new systems and everything getting better, it makes it a lot easier. I can go and collect 25 heifers in 10 minutes. I mean, in the tube, it's just, that's what technology's getting us. It's just making it a lot easier for all of us to get that information. I can do it daily, or I can have one of my employees do it, and then we just set it aside until I get so many samples. Then when I get time, I send in the samples as needed. The testing is coming back so much quicker. Before, it's like you almost forgot about it until it came in the email with all the responses. I think I sent in 30 samples about a month ago, and I got them yesterday. I got my preliminary list of what the genomics were on them. And that can change a little bit as time goes on with every proof and everything, but that's when you can barely get the calf off milk and you already know her genomic numbers. That's pretty neat, where we didn't have that before. So the other con to it, it took away some elite producers. Some of the elite producing cows and stuff obviously didn't test as well as a lot of producers didn't, so it wasn't good for the industry at the time. There's still some unpleasantries out there with talking with certain producers about certain cows that didn't genomically test as high as they'd wished. But hey, we all know what a good cow is. And if she's a good cow, you're going to keep her in your herd and everything. Yes, maybe it's a cow that you wanted to make a little more money on because you felt she was more elite, and maybe the genomics has taken that away. But there isn't a dairyman in here that doesn't like a good-looking, solid cow, and there's always room and there's always profit for them cows. So build off her and keep working that way. If we don't pay attention to if we don't pay attention to our results, more inbreeding opportunities will be there, and we're always trying to get away from the inbreeding. That's another con to it. And then, okay, opportunities with this is I should be able to get more profit from not raising all the heifers. I haven't got to the point where I am selling my younger heifers or any heifers yet, but I'm in a situation where I could if I wanted to. And I do have dairymen in the area that we're at a good time, with in my area that people are always looking for animals or cows, and they like the ones that come out of a 31,000 pound herd average. So, even my lower genomic ones, they feel are good heifers, and they'll milk them they'll buy them as milkers, and I still make a good profit on them. So that works good for me. Reduces loss incurred by lower genetic heifers. Me knowing who they are right away to get rid of them, I don't, I know what they are, and I know what that could happen in the future, so I would just as soon have a plan for them lower genetic ones. Not always just culling, but have a plan of how we're going to use them. And then having the ability to change breeding protocols. Right now on my other opportunities, my top 5% heifers I have been flushing, and some of my top 5% are quite a bit lower than the industry highs. Industry highs are showing 26, 27 TPIs, 800 net merits. I can't believe how it just keeps going up, up, up. Well, my highest heifers are just over 600, 650 net merit, and my TPIs, genomic BPIs are, 24, not quite 2,500. But they are the best heifers in my herd, so them are the ones I work with. Them are the ones I'm going to work on flushing. And it's only about 5, maybe 10%. It's very little. So then the middle percent, the other 20%, I'm using sex semen to breed all them, and then conventional semen for the 40 to 70%, and then the 30% I'll get the embryos from my heifers that the lower genomic heifers get embryos. And if I don't have enough embryos, I will breed that heifer just to a less expensive bull. But I try to treat them all good, and mostly using all high genomic bulls on all my heifers the way it is anyways. It's just, that's the route I'm going. I believe in it, and they show me the best numbers, and they should give me the most profit down the line off the numbers. So yeah, it allows me and other producers to advance quicker in genetic improvement, evaluate more traits for genetic improvements, not just the net merit and TPI. There's so many traits out there, as you've heard from the other speakers today, and that. Not just focus on 3 or 4, but eventually I'd like to get educated enough and have a better idea of how I can put them all together, and working with our mating systems and our AI companies that when we mate this cow or heifer, that more detail is put into it, and they're getting there, but it's taken a little time. But focus on the whole area of all the traits so we can combine that all together and make ourselves a really nice elite genetic animal. Again, we look as genomics as a total opportunity to progress the genetic value of our herd at a faster pace. I'm not out there to find the high one and call up the AI people and say, hey, will you buy her? No, I want to be a closed herd. I want to keep my herd together. If I have a chance to sell one someday, I'm not going to say I'm not going to, but our goal is not to just find the high ones. We are, as a whole herd goal, is to use this genomic information to improve our herd. So that's the main reason we're doing it. And it can, it gets costly. For my herd, it's $21,000 to $25,000 a year for genomics. That's just not the cost. It's it has the person that, I have to pay somebody to get that sample, my time to send it in, and somebody to evaluate the numbers and get it in the right places when we get the information back. Cost of raising a heifer up to 24 months old right now, I got priced in at about $2,150 at 5 months old. From 5 months to when they're about 12 weeks from calving, they get custom raised by a cousin of mine. So he's got 600 heifers in a state-of-the-art new freestall barn. Well, he's not going to feed them heifers as cheap as what I probably could in my facilities at home, or what it costs to build facilities. But over the time, I've seen the better facilities they're in, the more reward we get when they get back. They're in good shape. We're freshening cows in at 22.7 months. That's a month or two less I have to pay the custom raiser. That's saving me some money. And what I'm doing is I'm getting them fresh. And if I've been selling some springers now because I had 50 heifers due for July and 60 due in August here. I don't need to freshen that many with all my cows, so right now I'm selling springers at $2,400 a pop. And if they got, we also preg check and we recheck. So I tell the guy she's got a bull calf in her or a heifer calf in her. And I like to be honest about how I sell cattle, and really for what bull calves are worth nowadays, I'm getting $2,400, and that's all the records registered, all the everything in place, and all of them, as they come through, are all having genomics. I don't share all the genomic information, but if they want to see it, I definitely let them have it. But most guys right now don't care about it, but I know in the future, I think it's going to be important. And I know there's some people in here that don't believe that, but it is the way of the future, I believe. And that's just how I feel. So when Holsteins, the best breed of the group, when you have that many and you have money involved in your Holsteins, we got to do the best we can to milk the best 1,000 Holsteins at Ripp's Dairy Valley that we can. And that's my goal. I wish I could expand or whatever, but land values and being on conservation and having a good plan to get rid of my waste, I'm where I'm at and where I can only be at my dairy. So that's where we're at, and I look forward to hearing some questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chuck. Our next speaker is Dr. Dan Weigel. Dan, welcome.
Thanks so much, John. I really appreciate the invitation. Really a privilege for me to be here, and a real honor. So my talk today is going to be about the real-world results we're seeing in the herds we're working with today. And I couldn't have a better segue than have Chuck talk about that great Holstein cow. So we just had a base change here last December, and whenever we do that, it's kind of a report card on how we've done the previous 5 years. And this graph here, this chart is right from CDCB website, and what they do is they compare all the breeds, where they're at, the average cow in the breed. And since Holstein is the dominant breed, they deviate all these values from Holstein. And we look at the production side of the ledger, milk, fat, and protein. Wow, that Holstein cow is just absolutely dominant. She is the dominant production animal in the world. And so interpretation of that chart there, if you're looking at that Jersey line, that minus 95 means that if you're a Jersey farmer and you're milking average Jerseys, if you were to switch to Holsteins tomorrow, if you're shipping 605 pounds of protein with your Jerseys, average Jerseys, well, you could be shipping about 15% more protein or 700 pounds per cow per year. So that is a huge, huge advantage. And so everybody knows that. That's pretty well known. We go to the next column there is productive life. That one we're not quite as happy about. That says there that Jersey heifer cow is going to last 2.9 months longer. So if you're an average Holstein breeder, your cows are lasting 2.5 lactations or 25 months in milk. That Jersey cow would last an extra 2.9 months in milk. And, you know, my dad is 94, a lifetime Holstein breeder. It's the early 50s. He had registered Holsteins. I was going over these slides with him. He says, do they really, those little buggers really last longer or just seem like they're around longer? But anyway, it is what it is. Somatic cell, the next column, is where we do also have an advantage. We have really done an excellent job on recognizing that the value of somatic cell scores and improved our breeding tremendously. The next two columns are the ones that we've got a little bit of work ahead of us. And so if you're a Jersey herd and you're running a 30%, when you start to breed your cows after your voluntary wait period, if you run a 30% preg rate during that 21-day period with your Jerseys, your Holsteins would run a 23.3. Okay, that is a real advantage to them cows. And the next column is cow conception rate, and that is only of the cows you breed. What's the difference between the two breeds? So clearly, our Holstein cows, fewer of them are being bred during that 21-day cycle, which is a little bit of a problem. So here's the last column, heifer conception rate, and I've been running all over the country presenting this chart. Anybody seen the show Mythbusters? So this is a Mythbuster right here. People think that Jersey heifer is the most fertile female in the world, but it's that Holstein heifer is the most fertile dairy heifer in the world. Wow, that's something to be proud of. And as I travel the world, it's real. People realize this. Jersey heifers are not as fertile as Holstein heifers. So that's a pretty big deal for us. So talk about genomics. Does it work? So this graph is one I do a lot. I do this a lot, because we have a lot of producers like Mr. Ripp who are spending money on this genomic testing thing, and they want to know that it works. And so what we do is we take those original genomic results that we get back on these little baby calves, and we keep them. We got lots of computer space at Zoetis, so we keep all those results, and then we come back 2.5 years later, and we see how do those heifers milk. So we projected that some of these heifers are going to be up over 2,000 pounds of milk relative to the breed. And how much milk are they actually giving? Well, we use ME milk. We want to adjust for age at calving, as Chuck knows that older heifers give a little more milk. Heifers that calve in August give a little less than ones in July. We use ME milk to compare them, but yeah, the bottom line is this test works pretty good. We typically see that heifers don't get too far away on the top side, but as somebody who owns cattle, bad things can happen to cattle. So we will have some heifers that don't make their genetic potential because something bad happens to them along the way. Just kind of boil that down a little bit, and make them into the top 10% versus the next 10%. And as I was with a Dutch dairyman last week, and as he said, a lot of milk pays for a lot of things. And so we can see these top heifers make a lot of milk, and if we put some economics to it, they really pay a lot of bills. And the lower end of the herd that Chuck is not quite sure he's ready to part with yet, doesn't have the confidence with, we can show him pretty confidently, yeah, these heifers we said they're not going to milk, and they're not milking the way you like them to. So go back one here. So the traits that we really need to polish up a little bit as Holstein breeders, you might notice they're all pretty low heritability traits. And so people have the idea that because they're low heritability, you can't make genetic progress with them, or the accuracy of the predictions are not going to be very good. And that's not true. And in fact, I would argue that genomics actually helps on these traits a lot. Because if you look at the value of this prediction, and here's Dr. Bishop's aluminum chip over here on the side, and here each one of those that's 12 results there, 12 lanes of calves being tested. And when we test one baby Holstein calf today, it's like the information increase over that parent average is like having 131 daughters. That's huge. That is a huge step forward. So genomics can really help us on these lowly heritable traits. And we talk about heifer conception rate. That is the lowest heritability trait we have. It's 0.01. Heritabilities don't come a lot lower than that. But yet this is a herd of this is a group of 200 heifers we tested for a producer. And if we look at the top 40 or top 20% of those heifers over there on the right-hand side, and we look at how many of them, when they got to be older and went through the breeding pen, how many of them got pregnant after 1 unit of semen? It's upwards of 2/3 of them. And we look at the bottom 20%, well, it's going to take 3 units of semen to get them pregnant the way it looks. Only about 35% of them got pregnant. So this trait is for real. Low heritability, yet when we do the predictions, the heifers do spread out, and we do see in well-managed herds, we do see a real difference. I show this to everybody that does ET work because I don't know, which heifers do you want to put your embryos in, you suppose? I think I got an idea which heifers I don't want my embryos put into. So that's that lower end heifer again. We really work with our customers to understand that low end is a drag on their operation, and they're not worth as much as the good ones. Now here's a trait that we don't like talking about as Holstein producers. We have a problem with stillbirths in Holsteins. It's a first lactation problem only with Holsteins. Holstein cows have about 5% stillbirths, just like the other breeds. But first calf heifer, we have a problem. We started evaluating that trait several years ago, and we've definitely made progress. And it's clearly created to evaluate bulls, but we get those predictions back on our heifers as well. And the data we've been collecting, and everywhere I go, I ask people, do you keep track of your stillbirths pretty well? And we look at that because the model doesn't seem to be working quite as well as we'd like with this trait. With the bulls, I think it gets it pretty accurately, but when we look at the heifers, we see that on the low end, we talk about these heifers that have come back with a stillbirth rating of 4.5% or something like that. They have very few dead calves in well-managed herds, and that's very encouraging to me as a Holstein breeder because I think we might end up with much fewer. We might be known as the breed that has more live calves if we keep at it. But currently, and we don't find a lot of these heifers that come back with that GPTA of heifer daughter stillbirth of 10 and a half, 11 and a half. We're finding very few of those heifers, thankfully, but they distinguish themselves as having difficulty having a live calf in the herds we're looking at. Again, small numbers, but this has been pretty consistent with the herds I'm looking at. Again, Mr. Ripp, I show this to everyone who does ET work, and I say, okay, which heifer you want to carry your ET calf? And I think we know the answer to that one. So what's the difference? John invited us to speak to our organization just a little bit, and we're happy to do that. And it all starts with the service we give our customers and of course, the people it takes to deliver that to that service. And we really have worked hard to help bring the shine a light on genetic. I remember on my refrigerator at home, it has a Holstein symbol that better cows make more money, and that's what we've really shown people. And genomics has really made that happen very, very easily for us to show that there is a difference among cattle, and the better ones do pay a lot more bills. If anybody hasn't used Enlight to register their cattle, it's a big step forward from Easy. That's a really nice program. I feel guilty that it really has helped me out quite a bit. The next thing we really want to focus on, though, the thing we distinguish ourselves on the most is decision making. You are buying information when you buy this test. It doesn't make your calves better. It doesn't protect them from disease. It doesn't do anything. You're buying information, so you've got to have a plan. You got to figure out what exactly you're going to do with this information. And we're here to help you get confidence to part with some of these heifers. Have confidence to use sex semen on the better heifers. Multiply that top end of your herd. And that's what we're all about. It's a whole herd system. We're actually learning quite a bit about the herd. Again, if your heifers that have genetic ability to get pregnant and you're not getting them pregnant, well, maybe we've learned something about your management of your heifer operation, and maybe you need to use a professional grower to get those heifers pregnant if you're not up to the task today. So, and there's just a lot of information about that test that we really want to explore with you going forward. Again, this is what the whole thing is about. It's really, genomics, I think, has really raised the relevance of genetics to our producers who have no plans whatsoever to market registered animals. It's a big deal to them. They have really come around where it used to be $4 cheap semen was better than $5. It's been a complete game changer for those folks. And I just want to encourage all of my fellow breeders that TPI stands for Total Performance Index. You know, those traits that Dr. Lawler and the team that went over and come up with that they didn't just do that on a whim. They gave that a lot of thought, and the traits in that index have a lot of economic value. And I really encourage folks to use that index and mate them to fix the weaknesses afterwards. Again, thanks so much. I appreciate coming, and really appreciate it. Looking forward to questions.
Thank you, Dr. Weigel. Our next speaker is Dr. Nate Zwald. Nate, welcome.
All right, is this one on? Yes, good. All right, so I didn't prepare a presentation today. I can move around this way a little bit with a portable mic as well. It's after lunch, so it's our job to not only talk about important things, but also keep you guys excited and engaged in the discussion. So I don't have a presentation for a couple reasons. One is that it's easy to just, get bullet point-itis, if you will, and then I read the slides and you read the slides. Plus, it's a heck of a lot easier to prepare the presentation when you don't make any slides. So, and for those of you that didn't laugh, that was supposed to be funny. I'm not that funny of a guy, so if I say something you think was supposed to be funny, just laugh. It'll be easier on me and especially easier on you. So, that was supposed to be funny too. Okay. All right, so, but what a great industry this is, and John said we could talk about whatever we wanted to talk about, so I'll take that liberty, and I'd like Jeff Ziegler to come up and talk about the Badgers for a while, because he's giving me crap about the Buckeyes already, so how many Badgers do we have in the crowd? Yeah, that was a lot bigger cheering section, Jeff, than the Buckeyes got. So just remember that. All right, very good. But what a great industry we have, because one of the things we have to be very proud of and recognize, Dr. Bishop referenced it a little bit, but the U.S. industry is the absolute gold standard around the world. And be proud of yourselves for that, because it's not only, it's no segment of the industry that's the gold standard, it's everything. This is the place to milk cows, produce crops, feed the world. You guys should all be proud of your impact on that. And it's also the best place to, the home of the best, most important breed of cattle and the envy of the world, the U.S. Holstein. So that's pretty powerful as well. So be very proud of that. Whatever your breeding goal is, whatever type of cow you want to breed, the U.S. Holstein and the image around the world is the gold standard. And we have to work hard to keep that. So I had a role internationally for a couple years with Alta, got to about 15 different countries. And when they find out you're from the U.S., they always want to know what's new in the U.S. What's new from a management standpoint, what's new from a genetic standpoint, what are the new bulls, what's happening in the U.S., because everybody wants to be here because it's the best place in the world. I think that you guys, whether you're a producer, an allied industry member, or wherever you are in the industry, this is the place to be, and the type of cows you have in the U.S. Holsteins are also the envy around the world. So why is that? Well, one of the reasons is the great infrastructure that we have. And the infrastructure is not only the processors and the processing plants that you guys have and the choices you guys have of where to sell your milk, although you should highly respect that, because many places in the world have one choice, and when that processor says they're not going to take your milk anymore, they're in big trouble. So not only is it the processors and the futures market and the opportunity to hedge some of your risk both on the feed and milk side, you have to recognize that doesn't exist in the rest of the world. So that's a pretty big advantage that you guys have too. Whether or not you want to take advantage of it is up to you. But that's a fantastic opportunity that only exists in the U.S. So what else? When we think about infrastructure, it's not only that processing capacity, but it's also the power of the people in this room. So think about that for a minute. The industry and the effect and the tentacles of the industry have a huge impact, and the knowledge that's available from your neighbors that crop farm, your neighbors that have commercial cattle, registered cattle, people you only see at this convention once a year. There's a lot of power in this room in your colleagues and in your allied industry members and in the youth that we have that are interested and excited to be in the industry. So keep that in mind. This year at Alta, we have an internship program. We had 83 people apply for an internship, all juniors in college. So how exciting is that there's 83 young people that want to come into the industry, make a difference, go home, produce food for the world, or help you produce food for the world. Pretty exciting aspect of it. And big youth program at the Holstein Association, and that's powerful because that's where the next generation is going to come, and it simply doesn't exist in the rest of the world. There's nowhere where you have the neighbors and the youth and the industry that's around you. It's easy to take that for granted. I always did, until you travel around the world and see that it doesn't exist in other countries. They get all their excitement and interest in what's new genetically from a management standpoint from the U.S. So we are the gold standard. So specifically about genetics, what has made the U.S. Holsteins the gold standard? It's undeniable that it's the most sought-after breed in the world and the most referenced and has the most value. So has it always been that way? At one time when we imported Friesians, why did we import Friesians? Because that was the gold standard, right? So history often repeats itself, so sometimes it's good to think back to that time. So when we imported Friesians, they were the same breed they had in Europe. Then we made a split. We decided to focus on the production side of things, and in Europe they tended to keep a dual purpose aspect of their cows. And what happened? What became the gold standard? Clearly the U.S. Holstein, and the Friesian is basically gone now. All of Europe is also U.S. Holstein. So why was that? Because we focused on profitability, and we made a more profitable cow than the Friesian, bottom line. Genetically, we selected for the key traits that made a difference and made more profit, and the Friesians continue to focus on that dual purpose aspect. So a pretty powerful aspect of the breed when you think back to history. So history tends to repeat itself, right? So I think it's important to recognize that just because we're the gold standard now, and that's undeniable from an industry perspective, but also from a breed perspective, what could happen that allows somebody else to catch us? So it's also, as much as it's undeniable that the U.S. Holstein is the breed leader, it's also undeniable to see the impact and growth of the Jersey breed, especially here in the U.S. That's a phenomenon that's pretty much specific to the U.S. because globally, it's still absolutely Holsteins, and there's not the same discussions about Jersey. But we can sit here and say, well, we're the best, we're the biggest, and Jerseys will never catch us. And as much as we want to believe that as Holstein enthusiasts, the guys milking Jerseys, they don't do it just because they like little brown cows, right? They make their calculations and economic decisions, and for their situation, Jerseys might be a better choice in some cases. So we have to recognize that and recognize why that might be and what advantages Jerseys have, and I think the size of the cattle and the efficiency that they talk about isn't just marketing, it's real. And people see that every day. So we have to recognize that and say, what can we do, and what do we have to be careful as a breed and as the gold standard to maintain that status? Because there's no question that we have a target on our back. Jerseys want to be us, and every country in the world would absolutely prefer the TPI index and having the same global reference point that we have. TPI is the standard. US PTAs are the standard. If you've got a heifer that you think is going to be high and marketable in any country in the world, you want to test her on our system. You want to get a TPI, you want to get a net merit, you want to get US PTAs, because that will be the value. You can rank high on any other index, but it's not going to have the same impact that it will on TPI. So that's very cool, and it's very good. It's a good space to be in, but we have to recognize the potential challenges to that. And I think the challenges are, just like the reason that we became the gold standard was because we focused on the most profitable cow that we could, that's an opportunity for others to focus on that more profit cow. And I think it's important to recognize that we have to maintain that focus on profitability. TPI is a great index. We all love beautiful cows, but I got a quick example for you guys, and this is from a commercial dairyman's perspective. So if we got two bulls, okay, I'm going to use names. They, it's not necessarily reference to anybody, but one bull's name is John. Okay, that should wake some people up, especially John. And one bull's name is Nate, and the other bull's name is Joe, which you'll figure out why. Okay, and let's say you're a commercial dairyman. You don't classify your cows or anything like that, and both John and Nate, and Joe as well, they got a nice proof. They're 60 pounds of protein, they're 60 pounds of fat, 40 pounds of protein, both 5 points on productive life, a point on DPR. Everything's exactly the same, right? So we're identical. Thankfully for John, we're not identical though, because he's got higher type. Shouldn't be surprising to anybody, right? He looks like he's higher type. He's got his hair all fluffed up. It's all good. I don't. So he's the higher type bull. So I'm 2 points on type, udders, and feet and legs. Most people say that's pretty good, right? Not too bad. Well, John, the more type bull, he's 3 points on type, udders, and feet and legs. So he's higher type. But from a commercial dairy perspective, 2 points on type, udders, and feet and legs is probably plenty good. You guys are happy with me as a sire. Of course, everybody would be happy to use me as a sire, right, honey? At least one person, thankfully, for me. Okay, so, but I'm number 100 TPI in a breed, right? So I'm 2540 TPI. So pretty high for today. That's number 100 bull in the breed, not too bad. What do you think John's TPI is? Remember, we're identical. He's just the fluffier tail, more fluffy guy. What do you think his TPI is? So I'm 2540, so that means he's 2655. He's 1 point higher on type, udders, and feet and legs, And that's the only difference. Everything else is the same. So, if you're a commercial dairyman, which bull do you choose? I should ask my wife because I know she'll answer, right? If you think 2 points on type udders and feet and legs is enough, then the commercial value of both bulls is the same. But you think one bull gets more chances to have an impact on the breed than the other? In a huge way, right? Because he's number 4 TPI, I'm number 100. And you can think about this other ways, but then let's think about Joe. And the reason his name is Joe, I don't know how many people Joes are in this room, but it's not calling any of you out. So Joe is named Joe because he's probably a jumper Joe, because he's number 1,000 in the breed, because he's only 1 point on type udders and feet and legs. So he's 115 points lower TPI than I am, but he's number 1,000 in the breed. Not even on the radar screen. Probably got castrated when he got his genomic test back at 2 weeks old. So the impact of type is huge, and we all like pretty cows, right? I was in dairy judging. I got trained to love pretty cows. Went to Bob's herd, was always impressed to beat heck. But the fact is, the opportunity for other breeds or other countries to catch us, if you think about maintaining that gold standard, is their focus on overall profitability. And we're certainly focused on profitability, but we got to recognize that opportunity, and we got to ask ourselves, is that impact of type that we just talked about as important as it used to be? Was it when 50 years ago? Absolutely, because there were functional problems in the breed. But is it as important today as it used to be with all the progress we've made for type? So, and then with that, I'll close up because I've probably already gone a half hour, but I like to talk, and John said, don't worry, 10, 11, an hour, whatever, it's no problem. So, the other aspect, see, this is the other thing about not having slides. You don't know how long you talk, so it's great. But the other aspect of type is we have to be careful not to keep making bigger cows, because everywhere in the world, the one thing they say about U.S. Holsteins is they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And why are they getting bigger? Because the correlation between even udders and stature is still too high. It shouldn't take a tall cow to have a good udder, and it shouldn't take a tall cow to have good feet and legs. Yet the data shows us that the correlation between stature and udders is 0.5. It's way too high. The data tells us the correlation between stature and feet and legs is 0.4. Way too high. It shouldn't take a big cow to make a good uddered cow or a good foot and leg cow. We need to focus on the right kind of conformation, and we can't just keep making bigger cows, because again, it goes back to the opportunity other breeds or other countries have, and in this case, Jersey has a big advantage. So, ton of opportunities because of genomics for all of these things. And I think that's the key, and that's what a lot of the questions hopefully we'll get back to, but I think a huge amount of opportunity and excitement because of the technology that's out there today and because of the opportunity for genomics, or for utilization of genomics. And finally, the last point is, I know everybody won't agree with my thoughts on the future of the breed, but genomics will benefit each and every one of you. We got to make the breed right and the breed goals right, and then everybody, of course, should be able to and can and will choose their own breeding goals. And if you want to make the biggest cows faster, genomics will help you do that. And that's absolutely the opportunity for you to have for you to implement. And that's a great aspect of genomics, and it's a great aspect of our industry in the U.S., and it's part of what makes us the gold standard around the world. So with that, I'll stop and look forward to the questions. Very happy to be here and excited about the future of the Holsteins and also everything that's possible in this industry.
Thanks very much, Dr. Zwald. At this point, I'm going to turn the program over to Lindsey Worden. Lindsey is our Executive Director of Holstein Genetic Services, and she's going to moderate the Q&A session. Lindsey, welcome.
All right, thanks a lot, John, and thanks so much to all four of our panelists for those great presentations to get us started off here for an exciting afternoon. So we've got about 20 minutes for questions here. I've got a couple that I'd like to give all 4 of our panelists an opportunity to respond to, but certainly would like to hear some questions from the audience as well. So like I said, I've got a couple questions I'd like to ask, and then as we start working through that, if you have a question that you'd like to pose to our panelists, I'd invite you to step up to a microphone and please introduce yourself with your name and your state when you're recognized. So I guess the first question I'd like to give all of our panelists an opportunity to comment on, and I think some of you touched on this very well in your presentations, but I kind of wanted to bring it home here with some summary. In your opinion, what's the greatest advantage that Holsteins have as compared to other breeds when it comes to genomic testing? We can start down here with Dr. Zwald if you'd like.
It's really the really the reference population is so big in Holsteins. So there's so many animals tested, that makes the reference population, which is really the power in genomics. No offense to Dr. Bishop, but once we have the chip figured out, then the power of the prediction comes in the accuracy of it. So as you have more animals tested, your reference population gets bigger and bigger, and that adds to the accuracy of the prediction. So you look at the reliabilities that are available in Holsteins compared to other breeds, it's not a competition, and that allows for more accurate predictions and therefore, more impact on performance.
Dr. Weigel?
Yeah, absolutely. Is that on? I could agree more. It's most of the research is done on Holsteins. You have tremendous advantages in adoption rates. That's surprising to a lot of folks. Just the percent of Holsteins tested is higher than the other breeds, and I think that will serve us well as we go forward to maintain. We talked about inbreeding slightly, but as we test more animals, especially ones that aren't at the top or sired by sires who are at the top, we will find more diversity, and that will definitely help us going forward.
All right, thank you. Dr. Bishop?
No offense taken, but I think the advantage that the Holstein has is the DHI records and the depth and breadth of the records you have that go back so many generations and build upon, and the pedigree structure you have and the ability to train those markers to the population and have them be so accurate and to continue to be so for now.
Yep, and Mr. Ripp?
Yeah, I guess just Holsteins, we're, in Wisconsin, we're just filled with them. Just a lot more numbers to work with on the Holstein breed in general. And they're the best. I think that's where people are going to work on most. And, as a breed, that's about all I can tell you. They explained it very well.
All right, thanks. Thank you very much to everybody. And I've got one more here that I'd like to pose to all 4. And I think we'll start down here with Mr. Ripp on this one and work our way back left. In your opinion, what part of adopting genomic testing as a management tool do you see as the most beneficial to the average producer? I think you did an outstanding job covering this in your topic, so if you've got anything else to add.
No, just like I had said earlier, I think the importance of knowing that genomics is going to let you know who that sire is and that dam. Most farms, small or large or whatever, we're usually around when they freshen, and some of our herds have different freshening pens where we have a lot of cows in there. And I think one of our biggest problems is misidentified calves and cows. We wonder down the line why we have problems with maybe production or health issues in our herds. I think a lot of it just could be the misidentification right from birth. And that's to me is huge. And down the line, as we get better at this, and the genomics will show me, I'll focus on something more. But that was one of the biggest things of why I like the genomic thing. I was surprised how many we misidentified. We're pretty good, and I was missing every 40 samples. I would get back 3 conflicts, sometimes 4 conflicts. And it could have been as easy as a breeder just grabbing the wrong straw, or me with a typo putting that breeding into the computer. I was lucky most of the bulls that the suggested sire was a sire that we used on our dairy, but otherwise I would have no idea, and that could cause problems down the future. So.
I agree about the accuracy and the genetic predictability accuracy. I think that from a herd point of view, the ability to stratify your herd genetically, to be able to classify how those animals should be managed based on their genetics, and with the current information understanding we have of how environment and nutrition affects those genetics, gives you an advantage to manage the risk you have in your dairy herds. And I think in the future there's more that will be realized from that as a management tool.
All right, Dr. Weigel?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like I said, it's information. We encourage most of our producers to test the whole herd, and in fact, we like Rips, we encourage them to make extra heifers, and you know, make 20% extra heifers if you possibly can. Just like Alta's interns, they end up some pretty good interns. If they had 85 interns to interview for a few spots, they end up some really good interns. They hopefully had more than, they didn't have 84 intern spots for the, you know, they wanted to cull some interns, right? And that's what we want to do in our dairies. We don't want to take what we're given. We want to make extra heifers, test them, and bring in heifers that are going to fill spots and be profitable.
Nobody bought the excess interns, though. That's the problem.
That-
No, I think Chuck nailed it. It's the identification, and if you really think about that, the industry 20% mis-ID at least, the opportunity for more accurate sire proofs and more accurate inputs to the whole evaluation system, and also for you guys as a management tool, is tremendous. Especially as we absolutely will increase inbreeding in the Holstein breed. It's undeniable. When we make genetic progress, inbreeding will go up. And, you know, inbreeding protection and management, we should never try to prevent it or eliminate it, but manage it. And you can't do that without accurate ID.
All right, thank you very much.